Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to our course in metaphysics. I've been talking about the book This Thing Called You by Ernest Holmes. I want to thank you, first of all, for being here, and I want to let you know that I have some really good news for you. Do you know that the same power and presence that put the galaxies into their spin is the same force that works through you? So within you, you have the power to transform anger into love and judgment into compassion. Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I always forget to turn that down. I love live streaming. It's a good education for me. So we've been talking about This Thing Called You by Ernest Holmes, and it's one of my very favorite books. Okay, one of my very favorite books. I have read it so many times, I can't even tell you how many times I've read it. So I can get the show on there. I'll do a quick recap, okay, from our first two sessions. You don't need to have seen those to be able to keep up with this. But this thing called you is the divine force that is working through you, but also created you, so it has something to work through. Right? It needed a vessel. So it took part of itself and created a vessel or a channel that would be perfect for it to work through. So you've got this field of pure potential, which is source energy, and it needs a channel, which are each one of us. That way it can come into the physical, right? And fill our world with stuff. You are a way for life to live itself. You are a way for the story to tell itself. Now, we also change the next thing that happens to us based on where our faith is. And this book talks a lot about faith, the law of faith. See, we always have faith. But what do we have faith in? All right, do we have faith in a chaotic world? Do we have faith that things are going to go wrong? Or do we have faith in the universe and faith that God is everywhere present? So we have, which means then that we'll have faith that things will work out. Right, because God is everywhere present. And so tonight we start chapter 5. I've had several people ask me this last week. Why does life have to be so hard? Why do we have to train ourselves to overcome negative thinking? Why do we have to work so hard to keep in a positive space and do all this forgiveness? Why couldn't we just come in here already knowing all this and just have a good time? Well, I will tell you why. Because I have thought that way too. There have been some days when I have asked myself, why didn't I just pick this life to come in as an heiress and I could just spend all my time having fun and not have to worry about anything, right? Well, I have this story, and I think about this a lot as I examine my own life. But when my kids were little, my daughter was maybe 5, my son was maybe 7. They got their very first PlayStation. All their friends had them. They had a lot of older friends. And so they had to have this PlayStation. And my son would play this Transformers game. Now, at one point in the game, it would get so scary for him that he would come and get me, just so I would sit in the room with him while he got through this one scary part. But over time, he got better and better at doing that. And pretty soon he didn't need me there. Pretty soon he was so good at this game, he could just blow right on through it, and he could get through all the levels. None of the evil Transformers could kill him. When he got that good, you know what he did? He stopped playing the game, right? It no longer interested him. It no longer challenged him. Now that is why we are given freedom of choice, because life is a game. And it's up to us to play the game so that we get really good at all these things, but we keep leveling up. And that's really what we're doing, is we learn to not judge one event or one person. Remember, if it's been done, it can be done. So as we learn to not judge one thing, we get better and better at not judging other things too. All right, so we're playing this game. And what we're really learning to do is we're learning to trust our internal compass. We have this internal compass, whatever you want to call it. If you want to call it the Holy Spirit, your divine guidance, intuition, your angelic companion, I like angelic companion the best, right? But this force is a compass for us, and it's guiding us. And so as we're making choices, it is saying, it's whispering to us, yes, 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 or no, 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 no. All right. And so when we're getting yes, 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 that's when we're feeling excited about something, and that's when we're moving out of the comfort zone. When we get the no, 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 we're staying in the comfort zone. All right. Life, as a spiritual being in a body, our life is always about getting out of the comfort zone. That's where we're going to have our greatest adventures. That is where we're going to have this really great journey that we came here to have. And so we talk about the law of faith yet again. Are we making choices based on love? Which means, are we trusting the universe? Do we trust that the universe is everywhere present? Do we trust that the universe is in every situation, every event, every person, place, or thing? Right? Or are we trusting that there's nothing there for us? Are we thinking that the universe doesn't come through for us? It doesn't notice us. God is some far off deity that could care less about what we're doing unless we're misbehaving, right? That's what I always thought when I was a kid, that God ignored me unless I was being bad. Are we afraid to make a choice? Our whole life and having faith and all of this is about having awareness of how we're making our choices. And that's really what it comes down to. Do we just make a choice because we believe in what works through us? Or do we make a choice because we're afraid and we don't trust ourselves and we don't trust the force that works through us? What did we just choose? Right? What choice did we just make? What did we just choose? Our choices are always going to depend on if we feel like we are in alignment with that source energy. We don't have to become more of something. We don't have to buy something. We don't have to study a bunch of stuff. We don't have to grow older or younger or taller or smaller. To get into alignment with our source, we already have everything within us that we need. We just need to be able to allow what naturally wants to express through us to express through us. And as we make choices based on trusting that force, it more easily works through us all the time. And it's always guiding us, right? So it's telling us what to do. I'm going to read a quote out of this thing called You. He says, "You need not go through any practices to unify with this power, for you are already one with it. I know a lot of people who will say to me, I feel like God has abandoned me." Right? If something bad is happening in their life, they feel like they've been abandoned. But they're not. God is always with us all the time. You need not go in search of it because it is already where you are. God is everywhere present. God is always where we are, no matter where we try to run and hide. Now, there's nothing between us and our highest or brightest good except our fears about allowing that to happen. Source energy wants to work through us. It created us to be a channel for it to express itself into this world. So everything we're doing, we're allowing source energy to express through us. We shut that down when we become afraid. And we become afraid when we're asked to move out of our comfort zone. Now, if our greatest adventure that we will ever have comes through consciously choosing from love instead of fear, that is us allowing Spirit to tell us what to do, and then we act on that guidance. So if we're asking to have a great adventure, we're asking to live the brightest life possible, Spirit's going to tell us how to do that. So the next thing we have to do is act on it, right? We ask and we receive. We choose love because we trust the universe. And then when we trust the universe, we trust that power that works through us. And when we trust the power that works through us, that is when we start trusting ourselves. Now, this is where low self-esteem comes from. When we don't trust what's working through us, and instead we're relying on our five senses to survey the physical world, we're not tapping into that divine guidance. If we don't trust ourselves, somebody else can come along and say, well, you really know what you should be doing. You really should try to do this instead. If we don't trust ourselves, we may listen to them, and they may not have our highest good in mind. They may have their own fears limiting them, so they don't know what's best for us. Nobody knows what is best for us except for us when we choose to listen to that divine guidance that is coming through us. So we don't have to be like another person. We don't have to listen to another person. We want to be able to trust ourselves. Now, when we are trusting ourselves, we are allowing ourselves to be aware of the divine guidance that comes through. When divine guidance is coming through us and we're aware of it and we're listening to it, we start consciously making decisions. We don't automatically make decisions that may come from fear. A long time ago, I was asked to write a book on fairy folklore. And when I first saw the email, and it was from a publishing company, the request was very short. They probably sent out a bunch of these requests. But they said, would you like to write a book on fairy folklore? We read one of your reviews, and we like your writing, and you seem to know about fairies. Would you like to write a book? My first reaction was to say no, because I thought, I've never written a book, and I don't know how to write a book, and what if I fail? And what if I don't get it in time? What if they don't like what I've done? I had all these, these reactions. But when I consciously thought about it, and it only took a minute, I thought, no, I asked for this. And I just responded, yes, I'd love to, and sent it off to them before I could start overthinking it again. All right, so we're receiving intuitive guidance that's guiding us toward a brighter vision of our life. It's going to move us out of the comfort zone, and that's why it's going to feel uncomfortable, right? The comfort zone is where we're comfortable and what we're used to. Moving out of the comfort zone can feel a little scary. So we want to have conscious awareness of the decisions that we're making. And we want to pay attention to where we are putting our faith. What are we believing in, right? What are we trusting to happen? Are we trusting that we're going to receive that divine guidance? Or are we like, no, I'm on my own, right? So we have to consciously pay attention to where our faith is. And this is something I have to do all day long. It's not an easy thing. I mean, once we just decide, I trust the universe, I'm going to have faith. Okay? This is where walking the walk is very different from talking the talk. I talk the talk a lot because I'll say, I want to receive divine guidance, and I'm going to listen to that divine guidance, and it's going to guide me toward my brightest future. And that's when I'm thinking about it. But then as I get on autopilot and my divine guidance says turn left instead of right, automatically I might think, well, no, I'm going to go right instead because that's what I'm used to doing. That's where I'm comfortable. I don't know what will happen if I go left. Okay, so we have to be conscious about this. Where our faith is, where we say our faith is, may be different from where we believe our faith is. That's why our words have so much power. Because as we're talking, often we start talking and speaking unconsciously. All right? And when we're speaking unconsciously, we may be speaking from fear. We speak unconsciously when we automatically say something like, I'm going to have a bad week because, I'm going to have a bad month in my business because it's December. And all small businesses have a hard time during December if they sell a certain kind of service. And I sell that kind of service. Well, that's a habit, right? That's a habit and not thinking about it. I found myself going into that habit the other day and saying, not watching my words. I was speaking unconsciously, and I said, well, the economy is so bad. And then I thought, wow, why did I say that? That was an unconscious fear that just shot right out of my mouth, right? The economy is actually starting to get better. I know people who are doing better financially. And so there are people out there who are doing better financially. So for me to say that, I was just unconscious, and I was just coming from a space of fear. But see, what we say when we're not thinking about what we say, that's where our beliefs are. Okay, so if we automatically are talking about lack, or limitation, and we're unconscious that we're doing it, that's where our belief is. So that's why words have so much power. If you really want to know where your beliefs are and how much you buy into lack and limitation, get a complaint-free bracelet. Go to complaintfreeworld.org and order yourself one of their rubber bracelets. It's like this, except it's purple. And every time you complain, you have to switch the bracelet to the other wrist. So it really gives you a good idea of where your thoughts are. Okay, where our thoughts are. It was surprising the first time I did it. So what we're speaking unconsciously, that's what we really believe, not what we just choose to say in a moment after we've read a really good spiritual book. Like, oh, I just read Wayne Dyer. I'm enlightened, and I'm only going to say positive things for the rest of my life. Okay? What are we saying unconsciously? We learn that by paying attention. So our ability to believe, okay, is what shapes our faith. Our ability to believe. We want to believe that Source works for us by working through us. We're created to be a channel for Source to express into this world. Source does for us by doing through us. When we want to accomplish something, it's not just going to appear out of the ethers, right? What happens is Source works through us by inspiring us, by telling us the next thing to do, right? So that's how Source works for us in our life. We want to believe that we have the power to change our world by changing our beliefs. Now, this is possible. We can change our beliefs, right? Our beliefs aren't necessarily true, okay? I used to believe a long time ago that if I went to bed with wet hair, I'd get a cold sore. I don't even know where that came from, okay? But that was just a belief, and then one night I went to bed with wet hair, and I woke up the next day and it was fine. So obviously I changed my beliefs about that. We want to believe that there is nothing that we can't do once we have tapped into this power, once we understand how to use it. That we cannot fail when we seek first the kingdom of heaven. Now remember, seeking first the kingdom of heaven and surrendering our will to divine will. We talked about this in the first part of the book. When we seek first the kingdom of heaven and surrender our will to divine will, what we're saying is, I am limited in my imagination, in my experiences. I'm willing to believe that the universe has a bigger picture, a bigger idea, the bigger imagination. And I want what's bigger and brighter than what I can imagine. And so we surrender our will to divine will when we listen to that intuition, that intuitive guidance, the divine guidance. We're surrendering when we listen to that and we act on it. Okay, we can't just hear it, we've got to act on it. But this can be very hard, especially when something coming, divine guidance might say, this isn't the job you want, don't take it. And yet we're thinking, wow, I've been job hunting for a really long time, this is really scary, I need a job, I want to have a regular income, right? It can be really scary to listen to that and to say, oh, no thank you to a job that we just finally get, right? We cannot fail, though, when we are seeking first the kingdom of God. When we seek first the kingdom of God, we're choosing to see God as everywhere present, right? We surrender our will to divine will, and we're letting go of limitation. We're letting go of limitation to let Source work through us. So we just have to act on the guidance that's given to us. When God tells us to go in a certain direction, if we stop and say, well, why? What's going to happen when I get there, right? We're not trusting. We're just not trusting. If we're not trusting, we're not seeing God as everywhere present. And if we're not seeing God as everywhere present, we're seeing God as limited. Well, if we see God as limited, we can't believe that God can really accomplish anything, right? But this force is unlimited. It put the galaxies into their spin. So we see God as everywhere present. We trust that God is acting through all things, the good and the bad. This is hard too sometimes, because how do we look at a bad situation and say, oh, well, God's in there somewhere? Okay, God is an everywhere present force. There's no place that God doesn't exist, right? It doesn't mean that we have to be okay with something being bad. We can observe it and say, I didn't like how that happened. But if if we can see God as everywhere present, that means we're trusting the universe, and we can move forward. We can move out of a difficult situation. We will be inspired with ideas that help us to resolve difficult situations or work with difficult people. I had somebody that I had to deal with on a monthly basis a while back, and this person annoyed the crap out of me. And every time I had to be around her, I was just like, oh, how am I going to do this again? And I started thinking about this idea, right? Well, God is everywhere present. Source energy is working through her just like through me. And I would just look at her and only see the light. I mean, I really would do this. And after a while, she couldn't push my buttons. I was just like, oh, there she goes. That's it. Whatever. She didn't become my best friend. I mean, I'm not going to say that it works like that. But the drama was pulled out of the situation. Okay? So it's nice to not have drama. If we act on divine guidance, we will not fail. I've never met a person who trusted their divine guidance and acted on it who said, man, I wish I never would have done that. I meet people who say, you know, I got this intuitive message to do this, and I didn't. And I wish I would have listened to myself. That's what I hear. Okay, and I bet that's what you hear. We also have to learn to use this power. We have to practice. Having faith in being empowered takes practice. Right? Having faith that the universe is everywhere present takes practice. Having faith that God is inside every single person takes practice. And we know we need to keep practicing. When we look at somebody and we judge them, we see them as annoying, that just means, oh, I need to practice a little bit more here with this person. What a wonderful teacher. What a really great teacher to teach me this. So we just have to learn how to use this power. I remember when my kids learned to use computers, that at first, to them, a computer was just this magical screen that I could go on YouTube and just like find about any song, and my kids were just like, oh, wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. I could search on any images. I'd be like, what do you want to look at? It's like, oh, a dragon eating a hot dog, and I could search on that, and they'd be like, oh, there's a dragon eating a hot dog, okay? Well then, so they thought it was magic until they learned to use it, and now they're way better at it than I am. So we just learn to use this power like anything else. We have to keep repeating our actions, though, to create a habit. So we have to keep practicing non-judgment. We have to keep practicing choosing love instead of fear. When I have a cell phone, and it somehow my location settings started eating up a lot of the battery. So I'd ask my son to fix it for me, and he would just go on there and find the space, turn off location settings, and be like, here. Well, later on it would come on again, and I'd have to go find my son to do it for me because I couldn't do it. Finally, I decided, well, this happens a lot because I have to use my GPS a lot. I thought, I need to learn to do this myself. And I had to do it several times before I could finally do it all by myself without having to ask my son for help. You see, I had to do it. I also know people who say they can drive with somebody from one point to another a dozen times, and yet if they're always the passenger, they can't remember how to get there. They have to actually drive the route themselves before they'll finally remember how to get there. So it's not just working with source energy that takes practice. We got to practice with everything, right? So we don't have to feel bad. Okay, I'm going to read another quote here. And it's just basically saying the same thing I just said from Mr. Ernest Holmes. It is a known fact that thoughts, often repeated, form patterns in mind which automatically reproduce themselves. You've probably heard this put 100 different ways, okay? But a thought repeated, right? It becomes a pattern, and it settles in our head. I used to have this dog, and she would run around the outside of the yard, and pretty soon she created a trail, right, around the outside of the yard. Our thoughts do the same thing. We create a pattern of thinking that puts a rut in our brain. And so when something comes up, we're going to tend to go right into that rut. So we have to create these new patterns. It's the misuse of this power that causes us to be unhappy. Okay, source energy is source energy. We're the one who misuses it, right? God doesn't say, he wants us to suffer. No, but we will start thinking thoughts that cause suffering. So we just did it. We just misused this power. So what are we saying over and over again? Again, this is about paying attention to our words, because our words are telling us what our beliefs are. Are we saying, oh, the economy is horrible, I can't make any money? Or what about if you go outside and it's cold and you don't have your coat on, you'll catch a cold? Or I don't have enough training for something, right? What if I know people and their automatic go-to statement is, no, I don't think I could handle that. I'm not smart enough. Okay, so that's a go-to. Now that's a misuse of the power. If you say, well, if you always say, I don't have enough training or I'm not smart enough to take this new position at work, right? That's a misuse of your power. That's judging. And we want to move away from judging things to just observing things. Now, you might say that you want to buy a new computer, but you say, oh, I don't have the money right now. Oh, I'm so broke. I can't even afford a computer. Okay, that's judging. However, if you are just observing, what you would say is, I want a new computer, and it's going to be $2,000. I have $30. Eventually, I'll get that money. I'll just save a little bit every month. Eventually, I'll have it. Okay, that's the difference between judging and observing. Judging, we automatically limit ourselves and stop our good from flowing to us. When we observe something, we are still saying that God is everywhere present. We can still seek first the kingdom of God and observe something, but we don't limit how God works through us, right? We don't limit how source energy is going to work through us. So we want to positively use this power. What if you turned into what if you created a habit where you said, instead of saying, oh, I don't think I could handle this, or I'm not smart enough, what if you said, my mind is open to new ideas? My mind is open to new ideas. What if you said that 30 times a day? What if you said, I am continuously receiving divine guidance? Okay, that is a good one. I'm continuously. Are we back? Okay, that was weird. I don't know what that was. I think I shut down for a second. So, but I was talking about positively using this power. Okay, so say I'm continuously receiving divine guidance. Let that be your new go-to habitual statement. How good would that feel? How good would that feel? There's a reason that Paul said that we have to pray without ceasing. I really feel like it's not you should pray without ceasing, but rather you are praying all the time without ceasing. Okay, that's what that's about. We're always in communication with source energy. Our life is the prayer. Everything that we do is communicated to source energy. Okay, so source energy hears us, and remember, we're created to be a channel for source energy to work through. So source energy is just always saying yes, yes, yes. It's saying, yes, make something out of me. Now, if we're praying without ceasing, this is 24/7, we're giving source energy instructions on how to express into this world. This is why it is so important for us to watch our thoughts, our beliefs, our habits, because that's what we're telling source energy to create. We've got source energy coming in through our mind, okay? And our mind is creating the mold. And so what did it just create? Were we judging? Were we afraid? Were we feeling stupid or not good enough to do something? Source energy is just saying, okay, that's what we'll make. That was the mold. I'm not going to argue with you. And it comes out into the physical. Okay, so we are praying without ceasing all the time. And that's what's happening. It's being created in us. It's coming through, and we're telling it what to create by the thoughts we're thinking and the feelings that we're feeling. Make something out of me. It doesn't care. That's what it says. It won't say to us, are you sure about anything? Okay, it won't say, are you sure you wanna imagine living in a beautiful home in Mentown? Maybe you would rather live in Maine. Okay, make something out of me. We do have an inner compass, though, that helps us to move in the direction that we're meant to be moving, the direction our soul wants us to move in, the direction that the source wants to express in. Now, source basically wants to express through us to have the experience of itself, but it also wants the brightest version possible, right? So we limit it when we misuse that power. So our inner compass, or that divine guidance, is what's telling us how to move toward our brightest good and how to move away from the things that will limit us or cause suffering. We just have to pay attention to our thoughts and the words that we're speaking and listen to that divine guidance. Okay? It's telling us to move out of the comfort zone. Yes, it's going to feel a little scary, all right? But it's going to be the kind of scary like when you're getting ready to get on a big roller coaster. Okay? It's scary, but you really want to do it. And if you turn around and walk away, you're going to feel really sad about it, right? And so it's that kind of scary. That's how the universe wants us, right? Because it always puts us on edge and gets us kind of excited and enthusiastic. So we just have to keep paying attention. Pay attention to the divine guidance coming through us, making sure we're moving out of our comfort zone and paying attention to our thoughts and the words that we're saying. We're basically planting a garden all the time, right? If you were going to plant a garden, you would want to pick a good place to plant the seeds, and then you would probably take good care, and you might shovel the dirt around, add some fertilizer, because you want a nice place for the seed to land, right? You wouldn't just get in your car and drive down the highway and throw seeds out on the road, right? They're not going to grow, and if they start growing, cars would drive over them. That's not a very good place. So you're thoughtful about where you put your garden. Well, we want to be thoughtful about what we're planting in the garden that is our life, right? We want to take care to nurture that ground, which is to take good care of us. Also, when we're planting a garden, we pick the kind of seeds that we want. Do you want a flower garden? Well, then you're not going to pick you're not going to get pumpkin seeds and fill your flower garden with pumpkin seeds, right? You're going to be choosy about the seeds that go into the garden. The same goes for our life garden. We want to be choosy about those seeds. If we say that we want to have a loving, compassionate existence where we feel peace and joyfulness, those are the seeds we need to plant. We can't say that's what we want and then go get in our car and drive down the road and start cursing at somebody because they changed lanes without using their turn signal. Okay? So we want to pay attention to the seeds that we're planting in our own garden. If we want love and peace in our life, we have to put that out there. We have to create the mold for source energy to work through, right? It's going to come through us, so we create the mold that we want. Do you need healing? Do you need healing? Well, then you would want to plant the seeds that went with healing and well-being. To complain about health all the time, and I know sometimes that is just where we go. I know when I feel bad, I'm like, oh my God, my knee hurts, or my head got this cold, or whatever, and it's hard to not focus on feeling bad. But if we want to plant the seeds of health and well-being, we have to do something different. Focus on having gratitude and appreciation for the parts of us that are not bothering us, for the parts that are working. I have had moments where I've said, thank you, elbow. You feel so good. You are working for me. Do we want to, we want to listen to intuitive guidance, right? If we're working on health and well-being and we get an intuitive nudge that says, get a little more sleep, we want to act on that, right? We can't ask for health and well-being and then ignore the guidance that's coming into us. Okay, so we want to act on that. Do we want love in our life? Okay, then we act on the guidance that tells us how to spread more love in our life. We focus on the good. We focus on love. We focus on what it is that we want to actually see grow in the garden. Let the other stuff go. So we have to be open. We have to be aware. We have to be conscious of what we're saying. We have to have conscious awareness of where our faith is. We cannot plant a garden of love and well-being if we don't trust that this is a safe and friendly universe. Okay? Safe and friendly universe does not mean love and well-being. So we want to focus on what it is that we do want. Now, the law of faith holds us in bondage, or the law of faith gives us freedom. And that just depends on what our thoughts are doing. Are our thoughts putting us in bondage, or are our thoughts giving us freedom? Okay? So what are you choosing? What are you choosing right now with your thoughts? Okay, remember, right now, you are at the beginning of a journey that you've never taken before. Okay? So make it a good one. Make it a journey right out of the comfort zone. Okay? So remember, until next time, you are a force for good. You are a light and you light the way. With every breath you take and every beat of your heart, you are radiating light and love into the world around you. You are dearly beloved, a beloved child of a loving universe. In everything you do, you are blessed. And so it is. And so take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye.